Hi guys, Mrs. Adams here on how to draw a half-inch grid. So this technique that I'm about to show you is going to work on any kind of picture or paper that you need to put a grid on. Depending on what you're using, you may or may not want to use a Sharpie. If you're doing your grid on your drawing paper that you're going to eventually erase, you want to use one of these 2H hard lead pencils so that your lines are drawn very, very lightly. If you're drawing over a reference image, I recommend usually using a Sharpie because then you're going to be able to see your grid better. So once you get set up and ready to go, this technique works for anything that you're going to actually grid. The first thing you want to do is always find 0 on your ruler and use 0 at the edge of your paper. Once I have 0 lined up at the edge of my paper, I simply want to make a hash mark at every ½ inch. So half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, and so on until you get to the edge of your paper. Slide your ruler directly down your paper and do the same thing near the middle of your page. Always make sure that 0 is lined up at the edge, and never, ever flip your paper or your ruler so that you're always measuring from the same side, which will guarantee your lines are straight in the end. Do the same thing a third time down your paper. Again, half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and so on until you get to the edge, every ½ inch. Once you have your hash marks measured out, you are simply going to connect those together with your ruler. Make sure your ruler touches each of these marks. You've made 3 marks so that you can assure that your measurements are correct. If one of those lines doesn't touch the ruler, or if something doesn't line up completely, you should recheck your measurements because chances are good something might be a little bit off. If one mark is just a tiny little bit off, no big deal. Just keep going. So you want to connect all of those lines together from one edge of the paper to the other. Now, for this video, I'm drawing my lines a little darker than I normally would so that you are able to see them more clearly. If you are doing this for an actual drawing, you want to make your lines as light as you possibly can so that you can erase your grid in the long run. You're not going to want to be able to see the grid behind all of your drawing, whether you're doing a shading or a pen and ink or line drawing or whatever it may be. Once you get all of your lines connected together, you're going to do the exact same thing, but you're going to measure and draw in the opposite direction. Again, do not forget to line your ruler up with 0 at the edge of the page. Not the edge of the ruler, but the 0 mark should go at the edge of the page, and you're making hash marks at every ½ inch. When you're making your hash marks, make sure you're making almost an extension of the line that is marked on the ruler. Don't go sideways because then your measurements could be off by as much as a ½ inch, which is not what you want to do. If you are unfamiliar with a ruler, the biggest line in between the whole numbers is your ½ inch, and the longest line near the whole number is the number the line you should be marking for your whole inch. Don't mark right above the line or the number because that's not correct. It's that big long line that's there. Again, marking at every ½ inch. So half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, the whole way up through so that you have 1/2 inch spaces on your paper. Technically, you only have to measure twice like I just did. If you are super confident in your measuring skills, you can go ahead and do that. If you are unsure or a little bit new to the measuring game, you want to go ahead and add that 3rd set of marks in so that you have kind of a checkpoint for your grid. Continue connecting them the whole way from one edge of the paper to the other until you get to the end. Again, this can be used for any kind of drawing that you need to put a 1/2 inch grid on, whether it be your actual drawing paper or your reference image. A lot of times you're going to start with a 1/2 inch grid on your reference image. You could grid the whole picture or the whole paper or just a portion of it, depending on what the actual assignment is and what you are going to be using the grid for. Just to reiterate again as well, if you are using your lines as part of your drawing to help you with the actual drawing portion of whatever you're working on, please don't draw your lines as dark as I am right now so that they are easier to erase for you. The lighter, the better if you're drawing for the actual drawing portion. Okay, as soon as you finish up, you can see, one more here, that you will have a perfect 1/2 inch grid on whatever image you may need, as long as you start with that ruler at 0. Good luck, and I hope this helps. Have a great day.